Welcome to Career Insights. The Career Insight series features local industry professionals engaged in conversation with students and recent graduates about career planning and job opportunities in Polk County, Florida.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Reba Coyle, and I am the Business and Community Liaison for Polk County Public Schools Workforce Education Department. And we'd like to welcome you to our next series in Career Insights. Today, we are focusing on aerospace and aviation. I'd like to introduce our panelists and have them tell us a little bit about themselves, what their job is, where they are in their career or school.
My name is Ed Young, and I'm an attorney of counsel with jetlaw.com. We are one of the best aviation law firms in the United States, actually in the world. It's been a relatively recent change for me. I'm also a professor at SEU there at the Lakeland Linder Airport. I teach Introduction to the Industry, Aviation Law, and also Aviation Safety. I'm really excited to announce, well, I guess the announcement actually occurred on October the 1st, but that the other university that I teach for, Kansas State University, has partnered with NOAA to begin a career pipeline for the officers and pilots of NOAA. I have a multifaceted background within the industry, including not only being an attorney, but also being a certified flight instructor, a commercial pilot, and having been involved with virtually every aspect of the aviation industry there in Lake.
My name's Cole Harris. I'm a graduate of Central Florida Aerospace Academy and a member of the Lakeland Aero Club. I was a recipient of the James C. Ray Scholarship, where I was lucky enough to get my private pilot's license while I was still in high school, and became a mechanic shortly thereafter, achieved my A&P license, and currently just opened my own company called Central Florida Aircraft Services here in Lakeland.
My name is Daniel Rocha. I'm a junior at CFA, and here at CFA, is where I started my freshman year. I had my eyes on the prize since middle school, where I was in a gateway program at Sleepy Hill Middle School, where you go there for a couple years, for the 3 years there, and then you're grandfathered into CFA.
Cole and Ed, can you allude to what's the starting pay for some students getting, is it out of college or right out of high school with some of the training that they have through CFAA? What's some of the starting level salaries? Can you give us any insight to that?
The student coming out of CFA, if he was in the A&P program, for example, and has somewhat of a base knowledge about maintenance, would probably make more starting out than just someone who randomly decided they want to get into the field. The main stepping stone is having some kind of certificate or license. Once you have your aircraft and airframe and power plant a certificate, that's where the pay rate really goes up a lot. Mm-hmm. But for a high school kid coming out of getting a new job, I'd say $12 an hour-ish, something like that. It's probably normal. And then just as they learn, just keep it going up, and probably won't break over the 20 mark till you get some kind of certification. That's for mechanics, at least. I'm not sure what the going rate is for pilots right now.
What kind of certifications did you get and receive at, or I should say earn at CFAA that kind of helped you along?
When I was at CFA, I was actually in their professional pilot track and was planning on becoming a big airline pilot, and then started working in a shop after school and really fell in love with the maintenance side of things. So unfortunately, I wasn't too involved with their maintenance programs, but I do know they have a program available where you can come out of high school with your airframe and general license, which is half of, I think they may even be almost to the point now where you can do your A&P there if you start as a freshman and get all the way up to your senior year. So that would be tremendous coming out of high school, that kind of certificate.
For those of us that do not know what that means, can you kind of expand on that and tell us what that is?
Yes, ma'am. A&P stands for Airframe and Power Plant Certificate, which you can get from either going to school for 18 months or working in the shop with hands-on experience as an apprentice. And it enables you to become a licensed mechanic to where you can sign off logbook stickers for various aircraft.
Okay, thank you.
I'm not really contradicting you, Cole, but it's changed just a little bit. Here at CFA, I'm in the maintenance program. That's my career path. We don't graduate with our airframe anymore, but we do graduate with our general portion now. And it's accommodated for when we get out of high school and we have our general certificate completed, tested already, we can go ahead and go into Travis and continue on with our career.
And the pilot side right now, I mean, so we've been looking at a pilot shortage for a fairly significant amount of time. There is a relatively large investment. So a student who comes out of one of the programs and thinks they're going to go into the professional pilot, there's several great professional pilot programs at Lakeland Linder International Airport. So you're already introduced to them. The Aerospace Center for Excellence offers the James C. Ray Scholarship, which gives folks a huge leg up for at least getting their private pilot license. And if they do it efficiently, they can get some of the additional ratings as well. Right now, the airlines incentives for pilots are nuts. And it's drawing a lot of people to the industry, which is good. In the past, it's really depended more upon passion. Not even that long ago, like 4 or 5 years ago, first officers were only earning about $24,000 a year and flying all over the countries just to make legs. Now the starting salary for a first officer is somewhere in the $60,000 to $70,000 range. But that is, remember, that's a significant investment. Within the aviation industry, if you do have your pilot certifications, so working for a manufacturing facility, working for even just doing aviation marketing, those things do give you a pretty good leg up when you're talking to one of the industry organizations. And so at Jet Law, we don't hire anybody really that doesn't have a pilot's license, which I guess that makes sense. Or we help people get the pilot's license, which and aviation jobs, even when we're not talking about the front line, the mechanic, we're not talking about the pilots. Aviation jobs do tend to pay a little more. It is a little more expensive to fly. It's still, aviation parts still cost more. There's been some serious efforts to try and bring down the cost of aviation, but it's really because of the safety aspect, it's not going to come down very much. So the fact that it provides time benefit, it will still retain that value because people are interested in being able to accomplish things on a relatively fast schedule. So even when you're talking about, just a regular industry job, the price range, the industry rate is higher for aviation simply because of the nature of aviation.
What do you think, all of you, have been one of your major challenges? And, what did you learn from that? And, how would you help others in your workforce or in your job kind of help and get them over those humps and challenges?
Starting the company is definitely a huge challenge. Fortunately, I was surrounded by great people, the people at the City of Lakeland, Gene Conrad and Chris Hallstrand who run the airport, the support of all Sun and Fun and CFA. But I would say the biggest challenge as a mechanic is just maintaining and developing an in-depth knowledge of aircraft and just what you're doing. It just takes years and years to gain experience and just lots of planes and projects and lots of good mentors around you to teach you and show you things and kind of mold your brain into what needs to be done and what's safe, what's right, and what's wrong. You really need to understand the fine lines there. So I would say just getting an overall knowledge of becoming a expert aircraft mechanic is a challenge. It's a learning process every day. I learn something new every day.
Probably one of our biggest challenges, and my biggest challenge, has been the whole COVID situation, with some of us being quarantined and then school going virtual and this and that, and they throw 1,000 things at us. But I know, at least myself and all my friends here at CFA and all my fellow peers, that has not stopped none of us from continuing on, from striding forward. I mean, Lakeland Aero Club is as packed as it's ever been. The maintenance program, the high school maintenance program, per year, usually it gets slimmer. Us, not this year. We're probably one of our biggest classes to this day. So with the whole situation, teachers change, COVID, this, that, it's been a challenge, but it hasn't been a challenge that can stop us.
It's a challenge for most people, and it's the reason that aviation attorneys exist. The FAA is very, very slow to respond to changes in technology. And I've had a chance to work on a couple of really big projects that have attempted to move the FAA along. I mean, so it's the joy and also the pain of working with a huge bureaucracy. So drones, for instance, it took us years. I mean, we were capable of doing things that really ultimately save lives and reduce costs. We've been able to do that for years, but being able to integrate that into the FAA system has been very, very difficult. But the same way is true for aviation, integration of technology into aviation. The aviation fleet is old. It's,
Right.
I mean, we're flying around in planes that were not on the commercial side, on, you know, the training fleet side. We're flying around in planes that, you know, were built in the 1960s and 70s and 80s, and then there's this huge gap where there wasn't hardly anything built in the late 80s and the 90s. That response to technology has been very difficult for the aviation industry, especially because it is a huge bureaucracy. And then when something bad happens, you know, the 737 MAX situation, it is that understanding that the reason that we have this safety culture is so that we minimize those things. So when somebody has a really great idea, when somebody's trying to do something really neat and innovative, it hits a lot of roadblocks. The great part about CFA and ACE, I mean, you look at the program like the Zenith that they're building for teaching folks with disabilities how to fly. They've looked at that challenge and they said, all right, bring it on. And, you know, they had a CFA student design the panel, the swinging panel that allows people with disabilities to pull themselves into the airplane and then swing back into position. They've had great support from around the community to make things like that happen. And honestly, that is the big problem when you're out there just in the regular industry trying to work with the FAA, is that the FAA isn't real responsive to those things. But ACE and the folks that have worked there and the CFAA have really strived to move past that and to do creative and innovative things. And in the end, those creative and innovative things make people prosperous. And pushing forward with those things gives them a sense of how the world can be and how it should be, and ultimately, hopefully, changes the world.
What can students learn about drone flights and things at CFAA?
So Mr. Bressler teaches the drone program, and I'm also in that airport engineering project is also in Mr. Bressler's purview. So you can actually leave CFAA with a Part 107 license. And that is the license that allows you to fly a drone commercially. For the first several years of having drones around, the big issue was figuring out how we could license people so that they weren't doing dumb stuff with drones, because there's plenty of videos on the internet of people doing dumb stuff with drones. And that Part 107 is what gets you there. His class prepares you for that, and you can take the test after that class. They also do some work with how the flight design and the maintenance of those things work as well. Again, CFA is just this amazing pearl that when you open it up, it's crazy what's inside in terms of what you can do. They have a agreement with the airport to fly drones on the airport, which is, as far as I know, there's only 2 or 3 places in the country that have that. The opportunity is certainly there to get involved with that sort of robotics, and not necessarily just to the end of being drones. Robotics is going to be a huge part of our life. When you look at the Amazon Processing Center, it's robotics that makes that thing run efficiently. So learning those robotics early on, or learning how those things work together, is really what sets a nice industry path for students who are in that program.
And Ed, you mentioned Part 107 certification, I think having to do with drones. Can you expand? What is that?
The Part 107 is the FAA's regulation that allows individuals to operate a drone in the national airspace system and receive compensation for it. In other words, you become a professional drone pilot.
One thing I do want to mention is, CFAA is phenomenal, has been around for a while, has a great reputation, but I do know that, the Winter Haven area is also trying to expand their aviation courses at Winter Haven High School. So students that are watching this, there's also, places for them to go in that area. So great programs, and it is a need, because aviation, according to our, Central Florida Development Council and our industries, aviation is it's at the top of needed jobs in the future.
And Richard Hughes does a great job over there in Winter Haven, and they've started the Aspiring Aviators Club. He's this amazing cheerleader who had really no experience before, and is now leading a 100-piece marching band. I mean, he's doing a really great job over there at Winter Haven, and hopefully they can replicate some of the things that have happened at CFA over on that side of the county.
Well, I kind of want to end with my question that I've been dying to ask Daniel, and Cole, this question goes for you as well. So Daniel, where do you see your life? What do you want to do with all of this experience that you're gaining at CFAA? What's your passion?
To be honest with you, I don't want to sound like I'm trying to kiss up to Cole or anything, but seriously, that man, he's probably my inspiration. I saw him at the mayor's breakfast, and I heard his story, and I think that's what that's what I want to do. I don't want to limit myself just to working at as an A&P for a local shop. I think that should be the ultimate goal for everybody. Get your A&P, open up a shop, and continue moving up the chain. Try to see how far up you can go. With my experience, hopefully I can not only help myself, but help other people get into this field as well. Because if you look at it, I mean, not to victimize myself or anything, but I'm not supposed to be here. I'm a first generation child of an immigrant. I come from Miami, small apartment. I move up here, and then they give me this opportunity. They give me these opportunities that you can get here. You can move out into the real world.
Cole, you might have a future employee right here.
Yeah, I think you might have to come over and see me.
So Cole,
It gave
where
me
do
chill
you
bumps
see?
just listening to you talk about all that. Like, that's awesome, man.
Cole, where do you see your company going? Are you looking to expand? What's your goal?
Well, right now, we've just almost entered our first year of business, so just still getting a full understanding, and then eventually get more employees, grow, see how big it can get, and then maybe branch out to other airports or to acquire other shops at other locations. Maybe just get into other kind of niche deals. Like, I don't want to step on anyone's toes or anything. Start selling parts or avionics things, anything you can do in the industry to just keep it spread out.
Kind of on that note, Cole, have you ever thought about maybe once you're in, got a few years under your belt, considering taking in an intern, from CFAA or maybe the Winter Haven campus?
Definitely. I want as many kids that come out of that program and want to get into aviation to give them the chance and the knowledge and just do the best I can to help further them and their goals and where they want to get to. So internships or paid or
Job
anything,
shadowing,
Yeah, anything. If they want to come over and learn how to work on airplanes, come over and we'll do it.
I do want to add one little piece on the where things go in the future. So I was approached for this opportunity I have right now by someone who I mentored in the past, and she basically had the tenacity you all are both talking about. She forced the college she was at to create a degree program created a specialty in the law school that she went to for aviation law. And her big advice is be nice to everybody, because you never know when that all works around. And so being hired by someone I used to mentor is crazy to me. But now she's involved in this hugely successful law firm. And so I think it's spectacular advice. And most of us think we have a notion of what our direction is going to be when we first get involved in aviation. And I guarantee that changes over the course of time. And there's just so many opportunities available. Staying involved in aviation and being nice to everybody that you're involved with ends up having some just tremendous outcomes.
Be nice to everyone. Take criticism when it comes, and be a hard worker. So I want to thank you all for joining us today. This has been a great conversation, and we hope that students that watch this are intrigued about CFAA and the Winter Haven campus aviation. They're inspired by your stories. Cole, with you just coming out of high school and starting your own company. Daniel, you being a first generation student, that is incredible, and we wish you luck. And Ed, of course, you are just a plethora of knowledge and information, and we appreciate that. So good luck to all of you in your future endeavors, and we'd like to thank you all and have a good year.